Sound of gentle, melancholic music, perhaps with a slight hum of ambient noise like distant wind or an old house settling. Music fades slightly under narration. Arthur lived a quiet life, predictable even. His mornings began with a cup of Earl Grey, the rustle of the newspaper, and the familiar rhythm of a world he understood. Until one Tuesday, the postman delivered an anomaly. Tucked amongst bills and circulars was a small, cream-colored envelope. There was no return address, and the recipient's name, Arthur Miller, was scrawled in an unsteady, almost childish hand. The stamp, surprisingly, was a vivid, slightly crooked crayon drawing of a smiling sun. He opened it, a faint scent of wax and paper lingering in the air. Inside, a single sheet folded crisply. On it, in bright, almost defiant strokes of red and blue crayon, was a drawing of a stick figure holding hands with a much taller stick figure. Below it, in blocky, uneven letters, were the words, "To Dad, remember our bike ride? You said I was so fast." Arthur frowned. He had no children. He had never been married. He lived alone. He set the letter down, dismissing it as a peculiar prank, a misdelivery. Perhaps a child had simply picked a random address. The next day, another letter arrived. Same small envelope, same childish scrawl, same crayon-drawn sun. This one described a birthday party, complete with an imagined clown and a rainbow cake. "You sang happy birthday so loud, Dad," it read. Arthur's brow furrowed. The initial amusement had evaporated, replaced by a prickle of unease. He checked his mail carefully, scrutinizing each piece. No one else on his street had a similar name. This was clearly intended for him. As the days bled into weeks, the letters became a daily ritual. Each morning, tucked among the mundane, was a vibrant burst of crayon and childish prose. They arrived without fail, each addressed simply to Dad. And with each new letter, the memories they described grew more vivid, more personal. "Remember when I fell and scraped my knee? You kissed it better, Dad." A drawing of a bandaged knee, a large, comforting hand. "Remember the lullaby you sang about the little star?" A drawing of a starry night sky. "You said I was brave that day at the dentist, Dad, even though I cried a little." Arthur felt a strange, chilling sensation begin to creep over him. It wasn't just the unsettling nature of receiving letters from a non-existent child. It was the details. The way the child described the chipped blue mug he used for tea, the precise shade of green of his living room curtains, the way he always whistled the same tune while doing the dishes. These were intimate details, things only someone very close to him would know. Yet he couldn't place them. He spent hours poring over old photo albums, checking diaries from years past, even contacting old friends he hadn't spoken to in decades. Nothing. No mention of a child, no forgotten love, no secret family. His life, as far as he could recall, was entirely his own, solitary and unburdened by such profound familial ties. The confusion morphed into a desperate, gnawing anxiety. Was he losing his mind? Was he suffering from some form of amnesia? A silent void where years of his life had simply vanished? The letters began to feel less like a prank and more like an accusation, a constant reminder of something he should remember but couldn't. He began to feel a strange, hollow ache in his chest, a peculiar sense of loss for a child he didn't know. One evening, after receiving a particularly heart-wrenching letter describing a child's fear of thunder and a father's comforting embrace, Arthur snapped. He paced his small living room, the letter clutched in his trembling hand. The lullaby. That particular letter had described a lullaby, a soft, hushed tune he felt a faint, phantom echo of in his own mind. He walked to the fireplace, his jaw set. He needed this to stop. He needed to break the spell. With a deep, shaky breath, he struck a match. The flame flickered, then caught the edge of the crayon-marked paper. The colors curled and blackened, the wax scent turning acrid. He watched, transfixed, as the drawing of the comforting hand, the starry night, turned to ash. As the last ember died, a wave of profound relief washed over him, quickly followed by a chilling sense of dread. That night, Arthur slept fitfully. His dreams were not of stars or lullabies, but of smoke and screaming. He was in a burning house, the air thick with soot, and through the haze he saw a small figure engulfed in orange flames, its arms outstretched. It was a child, and its voice, raw with terror, screamed a single word over and over again. "Dad, Dad, why did you forget me?" He woke with a gasp, drenched in cold sweat, the child's desperate cries echoing in his ears. The room was dark, silent, but the image seared into his mind felt terrifyingly real. The letters were no longer a nuisance, they were a threat. He waited, terrified, for the next one. For 3 days, nothing arrived. A fragile peace settled, a deceptive calm after the storm. He tried to convince himself that burning the letter had worked, that the nightmare was just a consequence of his disturbed state of mind. Then, on the 4th day, the postman delivered one last envelope. It felt heavier than the others, thicker. Arthur's hands trembled as he opened it. There was no drawing this time, just 3 words, scrawled in a frantic, almost desperate red crayon. "I'm coming home now." Arthur dropped the letter. He stared at it, frozen. The air in his quiet house suddenly felt heavy, cold. He spent the day in a state of growing panic, every shadow seeming to lengthen, every creak of the old house amplifying his fear. As night fell, he locked every door, every window, even though a part of him knew it was futile. He sat in his living room, huddled in an armchair, the silence of the house pressing in on him. Outside, the wind howled softly, a mournful sound. And then he heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible creak from the front door. He held his breath, his heart hammering against his ribs. Another creak, softer this time, as if the door was slowly, gently opening. Then, the softest sound imaginable. Tiny footsteps. Padding, padding, slowly moving from the entryway down the hall towards his living room. Each step echoed not in the house, but in the deepest, most terrified chambers of his mind. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. The footsteps stopped just outside the living room door. The silence that followed was absolute, terrifying. And then a whisper, soft as a breath, yet cutting through the silence like a knife. A child's voice, fragile and full of sorrow. "Why did you forget me?" Sound of wind picking up, a low, sustained hum. Music swells slightly, then fades out slowly. Narrator: the idea of a lost memory, a forgotten life, is a chilling one. What if the past isn't just behind us, but sometimes, somewhere, it's still waiting? What if something you lost, something you simply cannot recall, is not truly gone, but merely biding its time, waiting for the right moment to return? Arthur's story, if indeed it is only a story, reminds us of the fragile nature of memory and the unsettling possibilities that lie beyond our understanding. Perhaps sometimes The greatest fears are not of what lies ahead, but of what we might have left behind. What do you think happened to Arthur? Have you ever felt a strange, inexplicable connection to a memory you can't quite place? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. If you found this tale intriguing, please consider giving us a like and following for more stories that linger long after they're told. Thank you for listening.